All right, ready to dive deep into Seth Godin's Linchpin. We're going to unpack this idea of becoming indispensable, but in a way that hopefully won't make your head spin.
Yeah, Linchpin is a book that really gets you thinking, kind of makes you look at your work and maybe even your whole life in a different light.
So let's jump right in. One of the things that really struck me was how Godin emphasizes that just following instructions, just doing the bare minimum actually makes you more replaceable, not less.
It's almost counterintuitive, right? You'd think that if you just do what you're told, you're safe. But Godin argues that in today's world, that kind of obedience actually makes you more vulnerable.
And he uses that example of Hector the day laborer, right?
Yeah, Hector is a powerful image. He's just one guy in a crowd of guys waiting for work. And from the contractor's perspective, Hector is completely interchangeable. There's no real difference between him and the next guy. It's all about who's willing to work for the lowest price.
And that's the scary part, right? How many of us are essentially Hector in our own jobs, even if we don't want to admit it?
And the thing is, this doesn't just apply to blue-collar jobs. Godin argues that even white-collar jobs are increasingly being outsourced. If your job can be broken down into a set of instructions anyone can follow, well, there's always someone out there who can do it cheaper.
So what's the antidote to becoming Hector? Godin talks about being a linchpin, right?
Exactly. A linchpin is the person who's absolutely essential, the one who makes things happen, the one who connects everything together.
But what does that look like in practice? Does everyone have to be the CEO to be considered a linchpin?
Not at all. Godin's point is that being a linchpin is about more than just your job title. Think about like a really amazing barista, the one who makes the best latte art, remembers everyone's order, and always makes you feel welcome.
Yeah, they actually make you want to go to that coffee shop specifically because of them.
Exactly. That barista is a linchpin in their own way because they're bringing something unique and valuable to the table. They're going above and beyond what's expected of them.
So it sounds like linchpins are the people who are passionate about their work, they're creative problem solvers, and they're always looking for ways to go the extra mile. I'm guessing that makes them pretty valuable to employers.
Definitely. They're the ones who don't wait to be told what to do. They take initiative, they come up with solutions, and they're always exceeding expectations. They're the ones who make things better, smoother, more efficient, more enjoyable.
But let's be honest, that can all sound a little intimidating, right? Like, is it really possible for everyone to be that innovative and energetic all the time? I mean, we all have those days where we just want to blend in and not rock the boat.
Yeah, that's where Godin brings in this idea of the lizard brain. It's that primal part of our brain that's focused on survival, and in the modern world, that often translates into a fear of standing out, a fear of being different, a fear of judgment.
It's like our inner caveman is afraid of being kicked out of the tribe.
Right.
Better to stay in line and not attract attention.
Exactly. But Godin argues that we can actually tame this lizard brain. We don't have to let it control us.
So how do we do that? How do we quiet that voice that tells us to play it safe?
Well, he has a few suggestions. One is to stop indulging our fears. Like constantly checking our email for criticism or obsessing over what other people think. He says that just feeds the anxiety.
So instead of worrying about what might go wrong, we should focus on the work itself, on putting our energy into creating something valuable.
Right. And another tip he gives is to pursue multiple paths. If you have several projects going on, the failure of one doesn't feel so catastrophic.
So it's about diversifying your efforts and not putting all your eggs in one basket. Makes sense.
It's like that old saying, don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid not to try.
I like that. So it sounds like Godin is saying that becoming a linchpin is less about some innate talent and more about a conscious choice. It's about recognizing that fear is natural, but we don't have to let it dictate our actions. We can choose to be bold, to be creative, and to make a real difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really empowering message. It means that anyone, regardless of their job title or background, has the potential to become indispensable. And that brings us to, I think, one of the most fascinating ideas in the book, this concept of work as art. Godin really challenges the traditional notion of what it means to be an artist.
So it's not just about painting or sculpting or writing poetry. What's he getting at here?
Well, he says that anyone who creates an emotional impact, anyone who touches people's hearts and minds can be considered an artist.
Okay, so it's not necessarily about the medium, it's about the impacts.
Exactly. It's about bringing that same level of creativity, passion, and emotional depth to whatever you do.
He uses the example of Tony C., right? The founder of Zappos.
Yeah, she was obsessed with customer service. He basically turned it into an art form.
Like, their customer service was legendary. They were known for going above and beyond, really making people feel heard and valued.
Right. And that's what Godin is talking about. It's about finding ways to infuse even the most mundane tasks with that same level of care and attention.
I love that. So it's about seeing your work as a canvas for your own unique contributions, no matter what you do.
Exactly. And he calls this emotional labor. It's that willingness to go the extra mile, to put in the extra effort, not because you're being told to, but because you genuinely care about the outcome, about the people you're serving.
Could you give me a more concrete example?
Yeah.
I think I'm getting the concept, but I'd love to see how it plays out in a real-world scenario.
Sure. Imagine you're a customer service rep and you get a really frustrated customer on the phone. Now you could just go through the motions, follow the script, and try to get them off the phone as quickly as possible.
But that wouldn't be very artistic, would it?
Not really. But what if you took the time to really listen to that customer, to understand their frustration, to empathize with their situation? And then instead of just offering a standard solution, you went above and beyond to find a solution that truly addressed their needs, even if it meant bending the rules a little.
Yeah, that customer would walk away feeling like they were actually heard and cared for, not just processed. That's a powerful experience.
Exactly. And that's the power of emotional labor. It's about turning a transaction into a connection, a routine interaction into something memorable.
And that really ties back to this idea of being a linchpin, doesn't it? It's about taking ownership of your work, using your judgment, and bringing your unique perspective to the table.
Absolutely. Linchpins are the ones who are comfortable making those judgment calls, using their emotional intelligence to guide their actions. They're not afraid to deviate from the script if it means creating a better experience for everyone involved.
But let's be real for a second. It's one thing to have a great idea or a vision for how to do things differently. It's another thing to actually make it happen. And I think we all struggle with this sometimes, this fear of actually putting our ideas out there.
Yeah, that fear of judgment, that fear of failure, it can be paralyzing.
I know I get stuck in that what-if loop sometimes, overthinking everything and then never actually taking action.
Analysis paralysis, we've all been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the antidote? How do we overcome that fear and actually ship our work, as Godin puts it?
Well, one thing Godin emphasizes is the importance of just starting, even if it's not perfect. He uses Picasso as an example. Did you know Picasso created over 1,000 works of art in his lifetime?
Seriously. Wow, that's a lot of art.
Yeah, and the point is, he didn't get bogged down in perfecting every single piece. He just kept creating, kept experimenting, kept putting his work out there.
So it's like the more you create, the more chances you have to hit on something truly remarkable.
Exactly. And that's what linchpins do. They ship their work, even if it's not perfect, because they understand that action is key.
It's better to have something out there that you can iterate on, improve, and learn from than to have nothing at all.
Right. And I think this is where we often get tripped up, especially in the digital age. We see everyone else's perfectly curated online presence, and we start to believe that everything we do has to be flawless from the start.
But that's not realistic, is it? I mean, even Picasso had to start somewhere.
Exactly. And that's what Godin is trying to remind us. It's about embracing the process, embracing the imperfections, and understanding that real growth comes from taking action, from putting ourselves out there.
He also uses the example of Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
They go live every week, ready or not.
Yeah, it's a great example of embracing the power of shipping. They can't afford to get stuck in the what-if loop. They just have to keep moving, keep creating, and trust that they'll figure it out along the way.
It's a good reminder that sometimes done is better than perfect.
Exactly. And Godin even has a name for that internal struggle we all face. He calls it resistance, the procrastination, the self-doubt, the fear of judgment. He says it's like this force that's trying to hold us back, keep us small, and prevent us from doing our best work.
So how do we overcome this resistance? How do we silence that inner critic that tells us we're not good enough?
Well, one key is to just start. Take that first step, even if it's small. Break down those big, scary goals into smaller, more manageable tasks.
And once you get started, it's easier to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Momentum builds momentum.
Exactly. And the more you create, the more you ship, the more confident you become, and the less power that inner critic has over you.
I love that. So it's not about waiting for the perfect moment or waiting until you feel completely ready. It's about taking action, trusting the process, and believing in your own ability to create something meaningful.
Exactly. And this ties into another really intriguing concept. Godin introduces the gift economy.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is this gift economy all about?
Well, he argues that the traditional economy, which is based on transactions and contracts, this for that, is being disrupted by something else, something more powerful. He calls it the gift economy.
So it's not about quid pro quo, it's about something else.
Right. It's about giving freely, generously, without expecting anything in return.
Okay, but how does that work? I mean, I can already hear my inner skeptic saying, but what's the catch?
Well, Godin tells this story about a photographer named Thomas Hawk who decided to give away all his photos online for free.
Wait, for free? Seriously? That seems counterintuitive.
I know, right? But here's the thing. By giving away his work, Hawk actually gained more recognition and opportunities.
So by not focusing on the immediate transaction, he actually created more value in the long run. It's like that saying, the more you give, the more you receive.
Exactly, and that's Godin's point. He's saying that linchpins understand the power of this gift economy. They're not afraid to share their best work, their knowledge, their insights, because they know that in the long run, it will come back to them tenfold.
It's almost like they're playing a different game, a game that's not just about immediate profits, but about building relationships, trust, and reputation.
Exactly. And in a world that's increasingly focused on short-term gains and instant gratification, I think this is a really refreshing perspective.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. I mean, we've talked about everything from replaceable workers to lizard brains to turning our work into art. It's clear that becoming a linchpin, in the sense that Godin describes it, is about so much more than just working hard or being really good at your job.
Yeah, it's really a fundamental shift in mindset. It's about recognizing that each of us has something unique to offer, something special, and then finding ways to express that through our work, no matter what that work might be.
It's a pretty empowering message, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
even in a world that feels increasingly, I don't know, automated, impersonal, there's still a place for individual creativity, for passion, for that human touch.
Yeah, definitely. And thinking about everything we've discussed, here's a thought that really struck me. Something that Godin didn't explicitly say in the book, but I think it really captures the essence of his message.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So, you've heard all these principles, right? About being indispensable, about being a linchpin. What's one small step you can take this week, just one tiny action, to inject a little more of that art, that unique value into your work, no matter what your job is?
I love that. Because it really brings it home, makes it actionable, right? It's not just some abstract concept. It's something we can actually start doing today.
Exactly. Maybe it's finding a more creative way to present a report, or maybe it's simply making a routine task a little more enjoyable for your colleagues. It's really about approaching your work with a different mindset, with this idea that you can make a difference, that you can leave your mark.
It's a great reminder that we don't have to wait for permission to be extraordinary. We can start right now, right where we are.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into Linchpin. Hopefully you've walked away with some valuable insights, some food for thought to help you on your own journey to becoming indispensable. And until next time, keep diving deep.